Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for tuning in to Community Updates and Enlightened Hearts. I'm your host, Michelle White. My host, Dr. Regina, was a little under the weather today, so she won't be with us this evening, but we hope to see her next week. So this evening, we have none other than the one and only uh, Ju- uh, Robin Dillard Russo. I was going to call her judge already. And she's running for 46th District Court judge. She currently resides or is on the Wayne County. What are you on Wayne County?
I am the director of the Indigent Defense Services Department.
Director, but she is ready to move it over to the community in which she lives in to
Yes.
do more work there.
Yes.
So we're going to be talking to Robin Dillard Russo, and as I've been advertising, we have her right here. She's on the ballot. Ask questions of those people that are on the ballot. So our phones, we've moved to a new location, but you can text in. So be sure and catch me you can send in comments on WJZZ's Facebook page or on YouTube. And I will be looking at both, so feel free to write your comments in, ask questions that way, and we'll look forward to it. So, before we get started, we always like to give you some community service information. There's so many things. A lot of times there's so many services and information that is for everyone across communities, across the nation. And oftentimes people just don't know where it is. You don't know how to find it. You've got to go to your city offices. You've got to get connected with your city officials so that they have web pages. They will keep you abreast of what's going on in your community, whether it's for employment, whether it's for services that will help your home, to manage your bills, your water bills, your light bills, solar energy. All types of information is available to you, but we try to bring you as much as we can right here on Community Updates. And we thank you for tuning in. And for all of our myriad of 80,000 viewers and listeners, thank you for tuning in to Community Updates and Enlightened Hearts right here on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the land. We thank our supporters. We have ABB Wealth Strategies, who is one of our sponsors, and we have more sponsors to come. But we thank ABB Wealth Strategies for being one of our sponsors, where you can be able to get information and strategies that will help you before moving into retirement, while you're in retirement. There's no cap and how much you can invest, and they will show you how to take funds that you currently have and maximize them and get more money for yourself, especially during retirement. So you can give them a call at 248-988-8200. Again, that's ABB Wealth Strategies. Give them a call at 248-988-8200. And you'll see the number streaming along the programming this evening. So you can go right to my Facebook page and see all types of information. There still is a lot of Section 8 housing available, and it's not just in Michigan. That's across the country. Section 8 opportunities have opened up for everyone. When people say they can't find a job, that's not true. There's so many employment opportunities out there. You've just got to get connected to find out where they are. Don't give up. Even get connected with how to write. Sometimes it's not that the employment is not available to you. Maybe you need help with writing your resume, or having someone to write your resume and utilizing the power words from that resume to express yourself to a potential employer. So sometimes don't look at, I'm not all the no's, but what can you do to make it better so that when you walk into a potential employer, you've done your homework and due diligence that will help you to get that position. So there's all types of information on my Facebook page, Michelle Turner White. Please go there and you can find out more information for you. So we have Robin Dillard Russo. this evening. Again, she's running for 46th District Court, and she's here. We thank you for coming and being our guest this evening.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to talking to you and sharing. We want to know what is your platform and what you want to do. I see that certainly we know that you're extremely well qualified. You're a part of the Wolverine Bar Association, and you I'm looking right here in front of me of various endorsement letters. She has some awesome endorsement letters from the Honorable Sheila Johnson, Honorable Cynthia Arvant, and many others, Kamisha Gant, who all are endorsing Robin Dillard Rusaw, and that's wonderful. And we want to hear, you've got an opportunity, everyone. You're listening to it straight from her mouth, what she wants to do and how she wants to help. And even because she's worked in Wayne County and Oakland County, we are connected. And that's just our two counties. There are counties all around the country that are connected with one another. So Robin Dillard Rusaw, and may I call you Robin?
You sure can, Michelle. Thank
Okay.
you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you went to school, and then get into where the platform that you're offering and what you plan to do for the 46th District Court.
Absolutely. And Michelle, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me. I am truly appreciative of you giving me an opportunity to have a platform here. So I was born and raised in Detroit. You know, I'm a native Detroiter. I was raised by a Detroit public school teacher mom who worked at Pershing for 37 years.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, and my father worked at Ford. So I have told this story along the campaign trail that I spent Saturdays at the UAW Local 600 eating donuts. Okay, so that
So you were involved even
yes,
as a young person, seeing how
person.
the process went.
Absolutely. And just understanding, public service, understanding, government, understanding what it means to give back to the community. These were all the values that I learned from my parents. I born and raised in Detroit. I attended Cass Technical High School, of course. Graduated from there. I then went on to Xavier University in New Orleans. That's where I obtained my bachelor's in political science. And when I graduated from there, I came back to Detroit and went to Wayne State, where I obtained a master's in dispute resolution.
Okay.
And it was at that time that I said, you know what, I always had an inkling to go to law school. And I tell this other story too, Michelle. When I was smaller, I talked so much in school, okay? Way too much. Got in trouble for talking. And my mom tells this story about the principal at my elementary school that said, "Ooh, that girl talks so much, she's going to be a preacher, a teacher, or a lawyer." That's the only three opportunities that she has for herself right now. So I tell that story because, I'm a first generation lawyer. I didn't have any others in my family that went to law school. So I learned about the law by being in law school. I knew it was something I wanted to do. I did not have a full understanding, but I knew I wanted to serve in that capacity. So when I graduated from grad school, I applied to the University of Detroit Mercy School of Law, and that's where I obtained my law degree.
Okay.
And, my second year of law school, I got a position at the 46th District Court. Judge Sheila Johnson, who's the chief judge there.
Just in your second year.
Just in my second year. Judge Sheila Johnson was the chief judge, who's the chief judge now. She was one of the judges. Susan Moisive, who's a retired judge of 46th District Court, and Stephen Cooper, who's now retired, both who support me in this endeavor. They hired me as a law clerk. And that was my first foray at a court.
Okay.
And the 46th District Court was a beacon in the community. They used to do schools in court. It was just there was a lot of community engagement, which I think is gravely important for courts to have in a community because you want to dispel the myth, if you will, about what court is really about. So that was my first opportunity to really see a very well-run court, really interact with the judges, and really, really gain an understanding of what public service is. So I knew that is what I wanted to do in terms of my legal career. I wanted to be a public servant. So when I graduated law school, my first position was with the state of Michigan. I was an assistant attorney general. I worked as a federal trial attorney where I represented the Michigan Department of Corrections. And so that position taught me a lot about trial practice, about appeal work. It was in Lansing, so I was stationed there. And then subsequent to that position, I was able to obtain a position at the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office. So I served there for about 4.5 years. And again, Michelle, public service, government work, you are really, really getting your feet wet. You are handling your trials. You are really exploring what it means to practice. And so I gained a lot of experience between those two positions because it taught me how to be a very good lawyer. But what it also taught me was that it's important that we have very good jurists because it doesn't matter how good your case is if the judge that's sitting before you is not competent, does not understand the law, and is not being an arbiter of the law in a fair and equitable manner. So I had a feeling that I wanted to be a judge when I was serving in these capacities. And so I had the opportunity in 2014. Judge Sheila Johnson, who's the chief judge now, called me up and said, "Hey, there is a magistrate opportunity here at the court available for you if you want it."
Okay.
And I said, "Absolutely, Judge. I want to come over. I definitely want to serve in a judicial capacity because that's what a magistrate is. They are quasi judicial officers that are appointed by the judges. And magistrates at the 46, they handle criminal arraignment, all the criminal arraignments. We handle search warrants. We do all the small claims trials, all the traffic violations, tickets, informal hearings, and the like. And so it again gave me an opportunity to really understand, what a good jurist does, but also to understand what it means to be a judicial officer, what it means to put on a robe, and how you should act and carry yourself when you're sitting in that position of power, if you will. 2 years into my position as magistrate, Judge Johnson needed a deputy court administrator. So I applied for that role. The court hired me. And so that, Michelle, was a dual opportunity for me. I was a magistrate and I was a deputy court administrator. And that gave me a unique position and a unique view into court operations because the court administrator handles all the budgeting with the city. The court administrator handles all the personnel issues, works in conjunction with the chief judge for overall court administration. So it made me very well rounded in that respect. And so I was very grateful for the opportunity. While I served in that capacity, though, COVID hit 2020. And at the same time, the state of Michigan was funding indigent defense. So the state was now responsible for making sure that all the public defenders in the state of Michigan were paid properly and so that indigent clients could have effective representation. Because Michigan, was a criminal defense system that was not very good. Let's just say that. So at the court, I implemented the Counsel at First Appearance program where we ensured that people who could not afford attorneys were able to have an attorney represent them at their arraignment. No questions asked. If you couldn't afford an attorney, the state was putting money into the system. Every person could have an attorney that needed one.
Now that's ongoing, but you're talking about during
COVID, correct. During COVID, and it was just at the start of when the state started putting money into the system in that fashion.
Okay.
So I was responsible for helping to start that program at the court. That work led me to the position that I'm in now.
Okay.
So in 2020, Wayne County was seeking an individual with that level of experience to oversee the indigent defense reform in the county. So I was interviewed for that position. I was hired in for that position with Wayne County, and now I serve as the director of the Indigent Defense Services Department. So I've been with Wayne County since August of 2020. And Michelle, when I tell you that we are transforming what has been known as a constitutionally deficient system into a leading system in Michigan, we are doing absolutely great work.
Oh, awesome.
We are. We oversee about 200.
You're speaking of in Wayne County.
In Wayne
right
County
now.
right now, yes. So we oversee about 200 plus private assigned attorneys who take cases in Wayne County, as well as our public defender office in Wayne County. And we are now able to give these criminal defenders the resources that they need, the pay that they deserve. All of these things are a part of the indigent reform that is happening across the state of Michigan.
So we have one question. Someone called in and says, how will you ensure that your personal beliefs, they have two questions.
Okay, sure.
What do you feel is the appropriate demeanor for a judge?
Absolutely. So I think the appropriate demeanor is somebody who can show empathy, compassion, can be very resolute because a litigant that comes in the court deserves finality, but has compassion and empathy for the people that come before them. And that is what I've been demonstrating.
And what about it when they don't understand the terminology of what's
Sure.
being communicated. Because
Yes.
a lot of people end up going to jail thinking they're getting a plea bargain or something and didn't really understand what that really entailed.
Absolutely. So part of the jurist's responsibility is to ensure parties know their rights. Okay. The attorney serves that purpose as well, but the jurist, as a part of any plea, they have to go through the advice of rights, making sure that an individual knows the rights that they're giving up if they decide to do a plea. But among other things, making sure that information is clearly stated on the record and to the people that come before the jurist. So I think that is gravely important that the jurist sitting there is competent, knows what they are saying, and makes it very clear for the people that come before them.
And thank you. And then the next question was, how will you ensure
Yes.
that your personal beliefs do not influence your judicial decisions?
Absolutely. So we're all human, right? We all come to the table in any given profession with our own personal value system and our personal beliefs. But judges are held to a higher standard. And judges are supposed to read and understand and base their decisions on the facts and evidence that come before them, not their own personal beliefs. There is no room in the judicial arena or in a courtroom for a judge's personal beliefs to influence how they would make a decision on the facts and the evidence. So it's gravely important that people realize that.
And I can imagine that can probably be challenging with some cases.
For sure. I mean, think about it this way. I was a former prosecutor, right? So I have a perspective there. But I was also a defense attorney. So I have a perspective there.
Right.
So for me, I feel like I'm uniquely positioned because I have had experiences on both sides of that in a criminal matter. And then I've served as a magistrate. So I can bring my broad experience into this arena so that I know that I'm being fair and equitable when I have a case that comes before me.
And I just wrote down, because of your diverse experience,
Yes.
that makes you qualified. And then you've worked across counties.
Absolutely.
On top of the various aspects in government and law and judicial law that you've worked in.
Absolutely. It makes me very uniquely qualified for the position.
So I see that you want to restore integrity and enhance the efficiency of the court processes.
Yes. Yes.
And so you see some of the challenges that we've been having. And now with Oakland County, which is supposed to be, I live in Oakland County.
Yes.
So I'm going to say that we're one of the premier areas, and it's important for us to keep that standard without compromising the integrity of how we deal with people. So how do you've shared some on how
Yes.
what you plan to do based on your experience, but can you elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah, and I'll add this too for some perspective. Courts have changed since COVID, mainly because of the necessity of moving quickly to technology to help ensure that we were still giving people access to justice. So for me, a personal mission of mine is certainly to continue to enhance efficiency of court process, knowing now that we have technology available to us, but using it more efficiently. Also ensuring that people who may not have the means, because for instance, what if somebody doesn't have a cell phone and they can't access Zoom for a court hearing,
And some
right?
people don't have cell
And
phones.
some people don't
Even
have
with
cell
all the
phones.
free phones that are being given out, folks, there are some people that still don't have a cell phone. That might not be hard
Yes.
to believe, but
Yes.
they're out there.
They're out there. And so ensuring that there is equity, right? Ensuring that there is fairness in court proceedings so that every person has an opportunity to have access to justice is important to me. And again, given the work that I do as an indigent defense administrator, I know that clients, attorneys have a hard time. They have to get transportation for their client to get to court. They may have to, like you said, get clothing for their client, a cell phone. These are basic necessities that we all take for granted, but these are affecting people who have to go to court. So for me as a jurist, and really with that administrative background, part of my mission, as I said, and as you are reading there, is to ensure that we have access to justice, that we are operating efficiently so that if somebody has to be at work, Michelle, at 9, we're getting on the bench and having the court hearing at 8:30 to ensure that these people can get back to work, right? So these are some of the things I think we can look at. And I would be proud to join both Judge Johnson and Judge Arvant because they both have court administration experience, and that is important. So imagine that. Now we have 3 jurists with that level of administrative experience. The court has nowhere to go but up at that point.
So how do you want to, thank you for that.
Yes.
And how do you plan to help keeping community, encouraging community involvement?
Absolutely. So I've been talking a little bit about this on the campaign trail. I would love to bring back the schools and court program. I think engaging with our youth,
Where they
again,
can come and sit and see
abs-
actual trials.
yes, yes,
I
see
think that's
actual
wonderful.
trials. Speak to the judge right after that trial, get their thoughts and understanding. What did you notice here? What are your thoughts? What are you seeing? How is this going to be impactful for you? Engaging with our youth is going to be so important because they're the future. These are our next judges and lawyers and court officers. So that is important to me. Also, really, community updates. We used to do a newsletter in the court, Michelle, when I worked there. Okay, just an
That's the
internal
name
newsletter.
of our show, Community,
Community
Updates,
updates, right.
and Enlightened Hearts, which is our mental health piece.
Yes.
So we address mental health here because that's huge.
Yes, it
and
is.
needs to be addressed.
Yes, it does.
And it's a stigma around how to address that. So we try to dispel that and get more people to recognize that it's okay to get therapy, but with the community engagement.
Yes, and I would love to speak to that too, Michelle, because I have some thoughts around our mental health as well. But yeah, in a community newsletter, if you will, from the court to the community, just talking about basic things. When we rolled out our court amnesty program when I was working there, where we were, there's a point in time, I think 36th District had done it before, where you forgive fines and costs on certain things, so to help people resolve their tickets
Like
and
tickets.
issues. Exactly.
Take some of those
Fixing
thousands of dollars.
that part. That's going to be important, but even more so, and I just want to add this because you're talking about mental health and the importance of it. District court is the community court. It is the first court that people typically see, more so than any other court in our legal system. It is a place where people resolve their traffic tickets. It is the place where all criminal arraignments start. I would love, and I've talked to Chief Judge Sheila Johnson about this as well as Judge Arvant, to bring our specialty courts to 46 district courts. Okay?
What are they?
Specialty courts are what they call problem-solving courts. Things like mental health treatment court, veterans court,
I didn't never heard of
sobriety court, yes, domestic violence court
it. And those are special courts
that exist
within
within
the system.
and they're aimed at problem solving, getting to the systemic issue of individuals' cases and addressing some of the root problems so that we can resolve them systemically at
Yes.
the beginning rather than let them escalate into something greater. There's a program right now that if I'm elected, I would hit the ground running with because there's a format that already exists. It's called Operation Drive. It is a program that deals specifically with people who have suspended licenses, Michelle. And Southfield sits in the heart of it all. So every highway and byway comes through Southfield.
Exactly.
So, you can imagine when I was a magistrate, I was arraigning suspended license tickets every day.
Regularly.
Regularly. But, giving people an opportunity to resolve, because maybe their tickets are because they can't get out of that hurdle of paying the fines and costs. They can't afford it.
And they're so expensive.
And they're so expensive, so they continue to drive, so they continue to get tickets because they got to get to work. So addressing some of these things, helping people at the district court level with systemic things is gravely important, and the courts are able to do that, and that's something that I would want to do.
That is wonderful. That is definitely needed. So someone else asked a question and too,
Okay.
and they said, why you and not Nance? You are both supported by Democrats, so how are you different from her?
Okay. So I'll speak to that specifically. Number one, I am uniquely qualified for the position. We are not equivalent in experience. I just want to make that clear. My entire career has been public service. I have worked on all sides of the coin, if you will. So that makes me, number one, more uniquely qualified. What is also important in that experience is court administration experience. I am the only candidate that has had that level of insight, if you will, into how courts operate. And that is gravely important given where courts are headed in the future with technology, with funding, with a number and host of other things that you want to have administrators that are sitting as jurists as well at this point. I also would like to say that I am strongly supported by over 60 individuals and organizations and local area leaders because of the transformation and vision that I have for the court as well. Every Democratic organization has endorsed me as the candidate. The two sitting judges have endorsed me as the candidate. Our local area elected officials, most of them have endorsed me as a candidate. And it's because of what I can bring to the table. So I do like to make that distinction because it's my wealth of experience that I have, but it's also my vision and it's also my community standing, because I was in the community far before I decided to run for this position. I was a planning commissioner for Southfield. I was a planning commissioner for Lathrop. I'm a current planning commissioner for Beverly Hills.
And tell us the counties that you cover. I know what
Yes,
they are, but you
absolutely.
should please share that.
Yeah, so the
The
46th District
areas,
Court
cities that you cover.
covers the city of Southfield, Southfield Township, which is Beverly Hills, Bingham Farms, and Franklin, and then Lathrop Village. So those 5 cities is what the 46 covers. But again, just to conclude on that point, I think what I am offering as a candidate that my opponent is not is, again, as I said, the transformation that's needed at the court. I have an unblemished record of service. Michelle, you and I kind of joked a little bit about this, about Google and how you can research a candidate very well.
Yes.
Research us. That's what I would say, and that will give you, knowledge, if you will, and tools of knowledge for why I am the better and best candidate.
And it sounds like you are seeing some of the challenges that 46th District Court has currently.
Yes.
And you want to change that.
Absolutely.
And bring the court system into the future in a more, in a better way.
Absolutely. I have that knowledge and insight having worked there. I have that knowledge and insight now, even as I canvass, because I'm hearing from the community about their challenges, particularly.
What are some of the things that you're hearing from the community?
Just access to justice issues a little bit, Michelle, ensuring things are efficient, ensuring that, people have a fair opportunity to be heard. When I announced I was running in November, the landlord-tenant community, and I'm speaking about landlords and tenants, reached out to me and to discuss some of their challenges that they were facing with efficiency and consistency, if you will, with their cases. So those are some of the things. And again, it's interesting because district court is community court. So the community, you have to live in that district anyway to run for the court. So you're going to know your neighbors and your community as a whole. So hearing from them have been very important for me, and it has kind of fueled me in this campaign, to be quite honest with you.
Now, taxes are high. I know that's not your area.
Right.
But taxes are higher in Southfield, but can you speak to that at all?
I can't, because and that I can't speak to anything that might come before the court. Not that it would, but if it's dealing with property or something, I really can't speak to it. But let me offer this, Michelle. I'd still like to say it as a jurist. My focus is the facts and the law. What is coming before me, I want to ensure that people are heard. I want to ensure that I am reading, that I am knowledgeable, that I know what I'm saying, that I am consistent, that I am transparent. And people felt like even at the end of the day, if their case, whatever way it goes, they know that they were heard and they know they had a jurist that was competent on their case.
So you actually give people that come before the court to an opportunity to speak.
Yes,
Okay.
of course. That's gravely important. That's what the court is for. I recall a time with Judge Sheila Johnson when I was a prosecutor, she let us argue a motion, Michelle, for a whole hour. Okay.
Wow.
Yes, we are. my co-counsel and I, and my defense counsel, a whole hour. But again, it's about
That's
being
unusual.
heard. That's unusual. But again, here we
It
have
was
a
needed
jurist
for that particular
that
situation.
Part, that part. So again, just giving people, litigants, an opportunity to be heard is important. It's court. People want to feel heard.
And when you've mentioned too about the juror, what are some of the things that you look for when you're selecting the jury?
Yes. So when you're as an attorney, when you're selecting the jury, you have, depending on the type of case that it is, you're always looking to ensure that the jury pool is made up of people that are going to be fair. They're going to listen to the facts and the law in order to make a decision. When I was a prosecutor, because I don't do courtroom work now, I'm an administrator right now, but when I was a prosecutor and I had to select a jury, and even as a defense attorney, you're just vetting individuals to make sure that the client that's sitting before you is going to have a jury of his or her peers, right, that are committed to listening to the law, committed to listening to the facts and not making decisions just based on how somebody looks. And even as a prosecutor, I want the same, right? I want a jury that's not going to be swayed one way or the other in my favor, but that will sit and listen to my case that I'm presenting, because it's my burden as the prosecutor to present that case. So that is what, attorneys are looking for when they're looking at their jury pool, when they are picking their jurors from the veneer and just making sure that that jury is made up of peers that are going to be fair.
I've only been called twice in my life.
For jury duty?
Yes, and I was not selected, or it was over before we got to the
Yes.
selection process, both times. So, and I've wanted to come and sit, and be a part of the jury, and
Yes.
has not happened yet.
Well, hopefully you'll get your opportunity, Michelle. And I applaud you because, some folks still say, I don't want to serve on the jury. That's the best work you could do is serve on a jury because you are exercising your constitutional right and you are seeing firsthand how our legal process works and having a say in it. And I think that's important. So
It is
kudos
important.
to you.
Thank you. I'm also working the community
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
And, we'll talk more about that, but one of the things I like to do is help people. You know how you mentioned that people need clothing and things to
Yes.
wear and home goods. That's so important.
It is.
And people don't realize that everyone doesn't have clothing and couches to sit on and cell phones. And so, we're blessed to be a blessing. And when you have, a lot of times in our country, we have an abundance.
Yes.
So we can
Yes.
give some of that away to someone that has nothing.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I like working on as a community leader to help people to have more
Yes.
than what they did have.
Yes.
For whatever reason. And so I love that you are very much wanting to involve the community, involve our youth, because that's very important.
It is.
Now, with technology and AI and all of that, is that playing a role in the courts right now and
Yes.
how we're moving towards the future?
It really is. With COVID and, the move to Zoom so quickly, courts had to learn how to adapt very, very quickly because justice does not stop, right? So even, I tell the story on the campaign trail again about when I was a magistrate and COVID hit, we literally, Michelle, within days had to move to Zoom to do arraignments because people were still getting arrested. They still had to be arraigned. That's the constitutional right. And we had to figure out a way to ensure that access to justice was still met. So that was just the start of the future that courts are going to go in. To your point, things like AI, additional technologies. For instance, 46th District Court is using the Michigan filing system, electronic filing system for civil cases. So
Okay.
we're no longer using a paper file, old school. Everything is electronic. So these are things that jurists are going to have to prepare for and have to be knowledgeable in. And that's why I say it's important that in the future, we're electing jurists who have not only great trial practice experience, but administrative experience, knowledge about technology, court operations, how these things all integrate, because that is the wave of the future for courts. They have seminars and stuff for attorneys about AI and how you use it properly. For judges, they can take seminars on AI, things of that nature. Because you're right, it's the wave of the future and we have to be prepared.
We have to be prepared. And with the AI technology
Yes.
looking so real,
Yes.
they know how to make it look so real that, in court, I don't believe you can use certain technology to plead a case.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
So that's good, probably, because they can make things look so real.
We're talking more AI, for instance, I know in the legal arena where attorneys can utilize AI for brief writing, right? Or motion, vetting it in some fashion and utilizing in that component. I don't know, and I can't speak to this because I don't have the full knowledge and scope of how it would be used, particularly in the courtroom, but I imagine it's never going to replace a sitting judge who has to be able to be knowledgeable and competent in the law.
Let's hope not, because I think Elon Musk is coming up with all types of robots. I saw one today that was, I don't know if it was real or not, but it was saying that he's finding a way to put babies and have them in robots and they can carry your baby for 9 months.
Oh my goodness.
Now, I don't know, that could be an AI
Generated.
thing. You never know.
Yes.
But I was like, wow. So when I was in the court, where was that? No, I was somewhere I was at in the parking lot. They had robots that were going around. They looked like R2-D2
Yes.
from the whatever
Star Wars?
movie, and they were going through the parking lot and issuing tickets. They were offering security, but the robot was going in between all the cars and just checking everything. I was like, okay.
Oh, goodness. Well,
this
let's
is real.
not replace humans that are able to
Exactly.
vet this technology, right? Because we got to know that it's legit and we have to be able to see it and really see if it applies to the facts in the law. That's the bottom line. So I'm a big proponent of that. That's what a judge is supposed to do, and that's what, certainly if I'm elected, I will ensure.
So, what are some of the other things? I'm going to call you Judge Dillard Rusa because we're going to speak it into existence
Amen. Thank you,
for
Michelle. I
So,
appreciate it.
you're welcome. But what are some of the things else that you want the audience to know,
Yes.
the listeners to know that you're bringing to the table? You've shared a lot, and I thank you for sharing that. What are some of the other things that you want people to know that you're going to do?
Absolutely. Well, I just, I want the listening community and viewing community to know, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. My husband and I, we have two daughters, 7 and 10. We are raising the next generation of leaders, right? And for me, I want to leave a legacy for my children, and have them know that their parents and their mom as a judge did everything she could do to ensure that their future was met with fairness and equity. I want to be a demonstration for them. So for me, this is an opportunity for me not only to assist my community from that power perspective, if you will, but it's also a chance again to engage the youth, for me to leave a legacy for my children, for them to see what good judges look like. And I need to say, I have felt very supported on this campaign trail, Michelle. As a challenger, that is unheard of. It is unheard of for a challenger to get endorsed by two sitting judges on the bench. I think that speaks volumes.
And you've been endorsed by both Judge Sheila Johnson
Yes.
and Judge Cynthia Arvin.
Correct. I think that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes about my character, about what they believe is necessary in the seat at the court. And so I would want the listeners to take that and then do their research. Look me up, see and vet me for this position because it's public service. Voters are hiring me for this position. So I would want them to be very knowledgeable about who they're placing in the seat. That's of grave importance. And there is enough news articles out there right now about the 46th District Court that a voter can make a very informed decision when they go cast their ballot. And that's important to me.
And this election, everybody go out and vote. However you're going to vote, vote. Some people are saying, I'm not going to vote because I don't like this candidate. I don't like anything about it. But you're not helping the process by not voting.
Yes.
You need to make a decision and vote in some manner. I'm going to do a station ID real quick.
Yes.
And then I've got another listener that's asked another question.
Okay.
So you're watching right now Community Updates and Enlightened Hearts right here on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the land. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. When you hit subscribe, it doesn't cost you anything. It just pings you when the show comes on every Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. And again, we thank you for watching. We want to give support to our sponsor, ABB Wealth Strategies. You can give them a call at 248-988-8200. And support them and go in. And we have different things and ways. Todd Bernstein is the lead person with ABB Wealth Strategies, the owner, who is waiting, willing, and he is trying to help individuals. That's the one thing I like about Todd Bernstein and ABB Wealth Strategies. They are not just a wealth management company that's they don't charge you anything. There's no charge to go in and talk and sit down and find some strategies that will better serve you, both while you're going through saving for retirement and while you're in retirement. So again, give ABB Wealth Strategies a call at 248-988-8200. So Judge Dillard Rusa. So here's another question for you.
Sure.
It's two questions. Kamala doesn't believe that there should be religious exemptions as it relates to the law, especially abortions. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I can't speak specifically to anything that could come before the court. Reproductive rights is most likely not going to come before district court, but certainly it could come before a court. I'll say this. You can go to my webpage. You can see who has endorsed me. You can see the organizations that have endorsed me. And that will give you insight into where my values lie. So I would offer that as a response. I think, again, it's important for judges because we can't speak to so many things on the campaign trail because of it being a court that you
How do
really,
you address your values as a
as a
judge?
judge.
Because you have to stay neutral
Yes.
no matter what
Yes.
your value is.
Yes. In the campaigning world, right, endorsements matter for judges because we can't speak, again, specifically to issues that maybe come before the court. But what we can offer is look to see who's endorsing that candidate. Look to see who screened that candidate and offered their endorsement. That gives you some insight into where their values may particularly lie. But the other side of that coin, Michelle, is if elected, I have a responsibility as a judge to be held to a higher standard. Judges have judicial canons that we have to follow. Judges also are put in positions of power and have to make decisions that can affect people's lives. So it's of grave importance that you are looking at the facts and the law and the evidence that comes before you, and you are applying the law to what's coming before you, and not allow any personal value infringe or influence any of that decision making.
About what's
It's about
before
what's
the
before
law.
the law. And we have to follow the law. And that is what it is. And it's the judicial branch of government, and that is the responsibility.
Okay, thank you for that. So another listener said, should laws support men in women's sports and bathrooms? And there have been lawsuits in the subject in other counties in Michigan.
Again, I'll offer this. Whatever the legislation is the legislation. And so judges are bound by the laws that come before them and base those laws on the facts and evidence that's presented. That does not mean that perhaps there are legislative things that need to be done on the legislature side to address some of the issues that our communities are facing, but that's for the legislature. The judges and their responsibility is to, look at the law that's before us and make decisions based upon what's before us and the facts and the evidence. Again, this is why the three branches of government really exist. It's a checks and balance situation, if you will. So I'll offer that as a response. What the law is what the law is right now. It does not mean the law is not ever changing. It does not mean that the state legislature is not going to make changes. It doesn't mean the U.S. legislature is not going to be making changes. But once they get to the courtroom, the judges are looking at the law.
So the bottom line is you got to follow the law.
Exactly.
So are you endorsed by Planned Parenthood or any LBGTQ? This is another question. Somebody even said there was another question in the chat, but I'm not seeing
You're
it.
not saying it?
So are you endorsed by Planned Parenthood or any LBGTQ organizations?
So I am not, but that is only because a lot of organizations don't endorse at the district court level. A lot of organizations endorse at the county level and above, and in partisan races, not necessarily judicial races. So I've sought many endorsements. I've been turned down only because they may not endorse in my particular race.
Okay.
But every endorsement that I have sought that has been endorsed in district races, I've gotten. So I think that speaks volumes.
It does. And you definitely are well qualified.
Yes.
And like you said, you've got the administrative, you've got the judicial background on just all ends and counties.
Yes.
So what have you learned from Wayne County that you either see would make Oakland County better or, just even things that maybe Oakland County could do to help Wayne County's court?
I think, Wayne and Oakland are two unique counties in and of themselves. I will offer this. Wayne County has been a blessing to me, mainly because, as the director of Indigent Defense Services, Michelle, I manage millions of grant dollars, millions. Over the past 4 years, we've gotten upwards of $160 million for Wayne County in terms
I'm
of
going
indigent
after
defense.
some grants. Can I give you a call?
Sure.
For the community
For the community
service.
services,
Yes.
right? But managing that level of grant funding, being fiscally responsible for the state's funds, has given me grave insight into just, being accurate, being responsible, ensuring the provision of services, making sure that we are a beacon across Michigan for Wayne County. So the mentality of excellence is what I've gained from this position. And it's a mentality that I would take into the seat. So, like I said, I have the pleasure of working in Oakland County as an assistant prosecutor and living in Oakland County. And we know, what Oakland County is about. But this experience in Wayne, I'm a native Detroiter. I lived in Wayne County. But this particular role that I'm in, like I said, has given me great insight that I think will translate beautifully into a judicial seat for the mere and
I
sheer
think so,
fact
too.
that the volume of it all has given me a lot of perspective.
And we certainly see that a lot of the grant funding that Wayne County has received, because I'm just loving Wayne County, our
Yes.
city,
Yes.
Detroit is still our city.
Yes.
Even though I live in Oakland County, Detroit is still the city.
Absolutely.
And the hub for everything. And I just love, I can go downtown, there's so many things to do, and the
Yes.
vibrancy of it all.
Yes.
So for all the people that think Detroit is not good, or people speaking bad about Detroit, Detroit is wonderful.
It is.
And has come, and thanks to a lot of what you apparently have been working on to help it to be that way. And so is Oakland County. I've been a resident of Oakland County for about 40 years.
Yeah.
I lived in Wayne County. I grew up in
Wayne County.
Wayne County, but I've lived in Oakland County longer than Wayne County. And I like both counties.
Yes.
And
They're both great.
they're both
great
great.
counties.
Yes, they are. And I was telling you that even many years ago, I used to serve as the one of the commissioners, the youth
Yes.
commissioners in Oakland County,
Yes.
and had an opportunity to work with Fracassi and Peter Cristiano and many of the other people that were the leaders at the time.
In Southfield. Yep.
In
Absolutely.
Southfield, yes. So I like to thank you for all that you've brought. Please let people know how they can reach you,
Yes.
where they can go, and if they have any other information, and whatever things that you want to leave, last bits of information you want to leave with our viewers and listeners.
Absolutely. So I have a website. I think I mentioned that earlier. It is www.rusaw4judge.com. And you can just Google it, Rusaw for Judge.
And let's spell Rusaw, so RUSSAW. So
Yes.
what is your website again?
Rusaw, RUSSAW, 4.
The number 4.
The number 4, and then Judge, JUDGE. Rusaw4judge.com.
So RUSSAW, the number 4, JUDGE.com.
Correct.
So you can see a myriad of things of information on Robin Dillard Rusaw, who is possibly going to be our next judge for 46th District Court. And don't forget to turn the ballot over.
Absolutely.
You've got to look at the next side of the ballot. Many people have, in Oakland County, what's the percentage of people who have already submitted their ballots? It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's
It
been
is a
high.
lot for absentee, especially.
Yes, for absentee, yes.
But to your point, Michelle, that nonpartisan section, you know,
Yes.
is historically, not only is it overlooked, but there is a significant drop off in the judicial section for individuals. So they might vote one part of it, but don't vote for the judicial section. And I like to remind people, you know, your president, we all want the president we want, right? That's a 4-year term. You know, you have our legislature, 2 and 4 year terms for certain aspects. Judges sit on the bench for 6 years. So you could be facing a jurist who is inept and not good for your community, and you have to deal with them for 6 years. So it is so important that people vote the nonpartisan section, especially that judicial section. And I tell people, why don't you just go ahead and vote that section first, and then flip your ballot back over and do the partisan section, just to get it out of the way. But to that point, Michelle, I would love to leave viewers with that as well. You have to vote the nonpartisan section, and especially pay attention to the judges.
Thank you for that. And it is so important. I'm so glad that we've had you here today.
Yes.
Because a lot of times people are voting because they don't understand,
Yeah.
they don't know anything about the names that are on that ballot.
Correct.
And so that's why we brought you here today. That's why we've been having different people come to speak to us about how they feel, what are their views, what are their values. If you've got to, we brought Robin Dillard Rusaw. I want to say that name so you can look at it on your ballot. Robin Dillard Rusaw. We brought her here today on Community Updates and Enlightened Hearts just so you can have a better and make a more informed decision on when you're voting. And I'm telling you, a lot of people they just guess.
They do.
They just guess and pick a name. And that shouldn't be. You've got to make a more informed decision. We're putting people in office that we know nothing about. And as she just mentioned, they're in office for 6 years. And that affects us. So make a more informed decision. We thank you, I'm going to say Judge Russo again,
I love it,
for
Michelle.
coming
Thank you.
here today, for sharing with our audience
Yes.
your platform, what you plan to do, how you look to enhance 46th District Court, which is in Oakland County. And we thank you for being here. And it's
Thank
just
you.
wonderful that you've been able to share. And I hope that everyone goes out. And next week, we're going to have someone else. So tune in next Wednesday, 6 o'clock, 6 to 7 p.m. And I don't know who that person is going to be just yet, but we've been talking to several people and we've given them a platform before the election is November the 5th. Go out and vote. Look and listen and get to know the people that are running so that when you get to the ballot or when you're doing your absentee ballot, you can make a more informed decision about that person. So we thank you for
Yes.
coming. We thank you for sharing your values, your views. And again, you can go to
Rusoff
Rusaw for
Judge.
Judge,
Yes.
RUSSAW, the number 4, JUDGE.com,
Yes.
and find out more information. You can see all the endorsements and all the different people who are supporting Judge Rusaw. And we just thank her for coming today again. And don't forget to tune in next week right here on Community Updates and Enlightened Hearts. I'm your host, Michelle White, and our host, Dr. Regina Hall.